Hey everybody, welcome back to Roosters on Olentangy River Road in beautiful Columbus, Ohio. I am Austin Ward. This is Lettermen Live. Coming off of a week that I would say was not very encouraging for college football. Justin Zwick down there, Anthony Schlegel, the difference, and for the first time on our airwaves, Stephanie Otey joining us to
You go by Steph or Stephanie?
Either.
Is it a PH
when
or
I'm
an
announcing,
F?
I'd say Stephanie, but my social media handles are Steph.
Is it with an F or a PH?
PH.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are we good now?
Yeah, it's just
Got that out of the way.
Know what to call
break
Steph?
formalities.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised
Steph.
you asked about my first name. Everyone
Odie.
asked about my last name.
Yeah.
Well, I don't call people by their last name.
I get Otey and all that, but you guys
My
nailed
wife's
it.
name is Stephanie, so I'm good now. Just Steph.
So
Boom.
we're already into a fun, casual conversation.
For real.
The show, who needs an intro?
Yeah.
As long as there's mac and cheese bites and Schlegel.
Yeah, I've already got. This is how I break my fast every Monday. I just eat mac and cheese bites and an Italian sub. Poof, David Copperfield.
Some of your mac and cheese bites are gone, Schlegs.
I
You
know.
got here a little late today.
Oh, okay.
Jay-Z took
Early
some.
bird gets the worm.
That's right.
The boss man, Spencer Holbrook, took some back there. Everybody's feasting on them. You got to move quick around here.
Well, I've introduced them all of how good it is. You know what I'm saying?
Like we didn't know.
Spreading the gospel.
I want to know if their sales have gone up since this has happened. You guys always talk about the mac and cheese bites.
Mac and cheese bites are real.
I think they have to. And plus, if you come on Tuesdays in the month of July, you get 20% off. So
Boom.
Thanks.
Good plug there.
Thanks
Go
for
ahead,
helping me out,
Roosters. Yes.
Man, this guy is savvy.
He's a pro.
Listen, I only endorse things that I have all the time, right? I wear Rocky boots. I wear Carhartt. I worked out in these jeans today, like had a great workout. Tri-blend
smelled
T-shirts, and I love mac and cheese bites and Italian subs. I mean, and I like Chipotle. You know?
hey, we'll get to
And
that.
which is a bad thing because guess what? My oldest son, guess what he doesn't like? Chipotle, like straight up dagger to the heart. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's
But he
rough.
loves Roosters, so we're good. He
As long
loves
as
their
he
wings.
loves Roosters. And he
Mild wings and pepperoni pizza from here.
And he loves Ohio State football.
Yes.
Yeah, he does love the Buckeyes. I mean, he's not really a football guy, right? My youngest son. I mean, again, football is a mentality. It's an attitude. Like, you have to love physical contact and not knocking somebody's junk in the dirt and also being able to take a hit.
I mean, you know. Yeah, you got to be able to take a hit.
That's what I'm
You don't
saying.
got to love
Well, if you play
knocking
defense-
people into the ground. I didn't knock anybody into the ground ever.
No, but you,
But I loved it.
But you got to
But
be
I
able
took
to,
a hit.
But you got to be able to take
Yeah,
a
you
hit and
got-
love contact, right? I mean, that's part of the deal.
Yeah, it's part
I
of the
love
deal.
football. You think I'm taking hits? No.
No, but you enjoy the game of football. You enjoy watching other people take hits.
Right.
Yeah, you enjoy watching players that like to hit people or get hit. Like, that's cool.
Well, speaking of hitting people, are we going to see people be hit this season
what's
here,
happening?
Austin? What's going on?
Last week,
Oh, that's amazing.
thank
Can I
you.
get one of those with just a little extra lemonade?
last week was not a great development for that, Jay-Z. We've been talking about this every day since March, and our optimism level. Last week was the first time I really was pessimistic about it.
Why?
You know, I've told you guys 100 times that
Don't
I
assimilate to the United States
Austin,
and
we were
everybody's
just
pessimistic.
talking about it
it's not
before the
it's not
news
my
broke.
decision.
I know.
Right.
But
But-
don't be pessimistic.
You know that I'm an optimist about
Good.
everything.
I know.
And you've been a part of the show. I don't take the half-empty viewpoint, but
3/4 full.
when they're having to look at this, and I told you guys since March that I thought this would be what happened. I'm reporting on it. There's going to be conference only. That didn't surprise me, but the fact that it actually became real, that they made that choice in July, which I also thought they needed to do. If you're going to plan a schedule and be flexible, you needed to do that in July and start working on it as soon as possible. But with everybody else around the country still being resistant to this idea, which seems like a no-brainer to me,
Thank you.
the financial ramifications I think are not being looked at enough. If the horseshoe is empty, they shouldn't be paying $1.3 million to Bowling Green. They have to get out of that to save their own skin. But you know, when it became real, the fact that they can't commit to certain games on certain days and that you need bye weeks in case there's an outbreak, all that stuff to me was really, once it became official, it was much more sobering than when I said, well, that's probably what's going to happen. And I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, you has been saying that, and it just I had a couple people who I told, well, you know, my insider knows, you know, he's saying this is what he thinks is going to happen. Then boom, so I'm getting text saying you were right, you know, and it's just like
It's not
just
like I wanted to be.
Well, none of us wanted that to happen because we know what the next step is, right? So you say you're going, all right, we're crunching this down to just Big Ten teams, and we just know that if something else comes out, it's not going to be good,
Right?
You know, so I think that is where it's kind of like, oh, like you thought maybe that was going to happen, but when it does, it's just like, okay, now they're setting themselves up to either see, or they're going to see how this plays out here in the end of July into early August, and the next step is just, I don't even want to say it.
The biggest thing for me was the shift in Gene Smith's tone. I mean, he was so optimistic early on. He was talking about half of the stadium being full. Now he's saying, hey, we may not play.
Right.
And he's even said the athletic department can't survive a year without football, which is shocking to me.
They can?
A year without Ohio State football, he says they can survive that.
They're one of few programs across the country, though.
Right.
I have to imagine that feels that way.
And I don't think that that's a realistic outcome. It's much easier for them to say that right now and 2 months budget out ahead of time. But if you remove all of the revenue for an entire year and you
PPP loan, bro,
$220 million,
Just kidding.
I'm afraid they're not going to get $220 to bail out all those sports. And I just don't think that Gene Smith was ready to have that conversation publicly. I can assure you that there are discussions right now that some sports will not survive. The fact that Stanford has already cut the amount that they did
11
means that even though Ohio State's revenue and interest is much higher than Stanford, this is where it's going. If you don't have 100,000 people in that stadium 7 times, they're not every sport is going to survive. And all of that is still part of the sobering reality, and also why, Schlegs, that I think that they will continue to make every possible avenue explored to have games, because they know how important it is to the university and athletic department.
Well, I just read a deal. I mean, if Alabama doesn't have football, they lose $2 billion in the city of Tuscaloosa. That's real. That's a real deal, right? I mean, let's look at the economy of Columbus, Ohio.
It goes beyond the university.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about Ohio State football. As Ohio State has success, guess what? Our economy in Central Ohio is booming. Why? Because there's the inventory of the stadium, right? So now you got the IMG thing, of which we gave, right? We get $10 million a year for the IMG and the signage, but if there's nobody going to the stadium, that value of that signage is, devalued, right? So you have all those. My whole entire problem with all of this really is what we have in the country, and it is a lack of communication of where we actually are and a lack of planning. Like, there should be a plan A, a B, a C, and a D, and guess what? It's all subjected to change once we have better data and better understanding. But guess what? We have no data or understanding. It's whatever people put on social media. Like, we don't have one source to go to. So I don't know who the Big Ten is talking to, right? To say, hey, we're going to cut this. Like, I thought August 1st would be the deadline, and say, hey, we're going to push the season. We're going to start September 1 or whatever that weekend looked like. That's enough time to get ready, right? Because, again, if you open it up into July, where it's like, you know what, now you can have 20 hours. Yeah, it's not going to be contact, but then you could potentially be in shells. But you got a 20-hour work week. There's a lot of the install things that you can get out of the way before you go into a camp type mode, right? So we can plan up to August 1. Say, August 1, tentatively, Big Ten as an organization, conference, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make plan A is this. Okay? Plan B will be this. C this. They maybe don't have to say that, but they already have it in their back pocket. We will make it a decision on August whatever of where we're going to go, and then they can facilitate what those plans are to everybody else so they could be prepared, because again, flexibility is the key to air power, right? So if I'm flexible with my program, I understand everything that the governing body is going to do, I can adapt. That's what they've been doing this entire time, is adapting. So my problem was coming out and saying, hey, now we're going to cancel all the conferences. And then again, that goes back to home games. That also goes to money being lost in the MAC that was scheduled to play 11. And if it was done because of logistics, now was kind of my problem with the deal. We're going to do this for the safety of the players and logistics. There ain't nobody daggum closer than the MAC schools. So if it's a logistics, if it's a logistic issue, then say, then don't. I mean, if it's not a logistic issue, if it's we want to have more bye weeks and flexibility in our schedule, then say, hey, guess what? It's that we want more flexibility in our schedule, not because we're going to do it for safety or logistics of being able to test people, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the concern with the non-conference opponents, and this is the biggest problem with all of college football, which has long thrived on the chaos and lack of a centralized, really governing body. The conferences lead the way. And so the conferences are going to be setting the protocol and deciding how much money needs to be spent, maybe allocating that money to somebody like Rutgers who doesn't have it, since I use them as the example every single week, since they probably won't be playing football given the rules in their state. But you're not going to be able – people ask that all the time. Well, if you can fly to Wisconsin, why couldn't you fly to Oregon? Well, you can probably assume that the Pac-12 is going to have the same approach to quarantine, to testing, to making public your announcements about who's going to play and who can't play. You can assume that's probably going to be the case, but you don't know for sure. But there is a huge financial gap between the MAC and the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is not going to pay to make sure that the week of that game that Bowling Green has the exact same protocol.
Right, for sure.
And I get that. Like, it would have been great if all of college football had come out last week at the same time.
Which is my second problem, right? Like, do we not talk to other conferences? I mean, the hotbed of all the outbreaks right now are, guess what, all in the South. Well, what conference is that? The SEC. Are we not, like, can you not pick up a phone and say, hey, listen, because, again, if we want a national championship, it's the Power 5. So can we not get on the phone with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and the SEC, bump the ACC and us, right? Because they only got Clemson. Just call Clemson's AD, right? Bump everybody else. And just say, hey, listen, here's what we're going to do, right? Here's our plans. Is everybody cool with these plans? What are things that you have to work out logistically? Because at some point, we're all going to have to come together to play a semifinal and a championship game if we want a true champion for 2020. But why can't we do that? And it wasn't like, the Big Ten wanted to be the first mover, just like in business. Right, so we're just going to come out and set the tone without talking to anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else has better ideas. That's my problem. Lack of communication, lack of transparency. We know what's going on. Just talk and say everybody, all conferences are going to come out on August 1st, and here's what we're going to do. Can we all just say yes? But everybody has their own damn agenda. Everybody wants to look like the person that plugged it first. Bump that. Number one thing is the player safety and the players playing a game of football and the ramifications of non-football that affects our economy, but it also affects the student athletes that are playing now, where they go to next year, right, potentially the NFL,
Yep.
and the high school seniors that are trying to get scholarships. Because if they don't play and we don't have a season in college football, now they got to go back and look at junior film. And guess who ain't getting a scholarship if that happens?
Right.
This guy, right? Because I needed a senior year. That's real. There's a lot of
guys
other
out
things.
there that needs the senior year.
There's a lot of things besides just college football this year that affects, and it goes from top bottom, man. There's a lot of people affected by it. So let's do our due diligence. Let's have conversations. Let's have a plan, and then let's execute at a high level.
All right, so they've.
Well, but what else do you want to talk? No, I'm just kidding.
So they've made
See,
that
Stephanie, this is a fun, casual conversation, and then I get juiced up. But I'm kind of mild because I always work out
He's
before.
saving it up for the
You
linebacker
brought
talk.
up an interesting point about high school, and there is a trickle-down effect. This past week in Ohio, high schools have been talking about maybe shifting to a spring schedule for football. And what does that do for college and then the NFL? The NFL has openly said that they're not changing the draft.
Yeah.
Well, they might have to, but
They certainly
if
need to, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what happens if Ohio high school players are playing football in the spring?
Well, I guess
You
what?
know,
I'm going to
it's
tell
a
you what happens,
huge
Stephanie.
trickle effect.
Well, what are they going to do in Texas, right? So, I mean, again, now you're going to have some states that are playing in the fall, some states that are playing in the spring. You're going to have to wait. But then what are some of those really high-profile guys? You're going to be like, hey, listen, I don't want you to wait to go look at this five-star guy from Ohio. I'm from Texas. I'm the five-star guy. I'll commit now. But you want to wait on that guy to see his film, right? Because I'm comparing two five-star cats to each other. Then who are you going to go after?
What you're going to have, and the problem there is you tell these seniors, you're going to play in the spring this year. You're going to graduate.
And then you're going to play
And then
another
you're going
season.
to go to camp. You know what all those five stars who already committed are going to say? I'm not playing.
Right, exactly.
I'm not risking
That's a great point, Justin.
a 7-game season or whatever it is in the spring where I'm going to turn around 2 weeks later and go to my college of
and
choice.
be injured, which is why I don't like the spring football aspect of playing 2 seasons in one.
Yeah.
You mean I'm going to play a senior year of college football and then go to a training camp in the NFL? Go Bucks.
Well, since you opened up this rabbit hole,
Ooh, is that me or Justin?
I think Steph.
Steph
Steph
did.
usually get
Steph
the blame,
did.
but let's
You
go
know
with the
what?
new girl.
Steph.
You know
the
what?
new girl.
You know what, though, Justin? That was a great point.
And here's the deal with those kids. Like Travion Henderson, he has already said basically, Virginia is looking at his spring football schedule. Well, he's an early enrollee for Ohio State. He's losing his senior year, and he's not going to stick around for that. And guess what? If they play in the spring and he's an early enrollee,
He'll already be here.
what do you even have to?
Yeah.
Your roster could suddenly be 110 people. So the NCAA then has to say, well, we were going to change our rules for signing players. We're going to have to waive the scholarship maximum. And there's 100 things that they have. If they're thinking about spring, which is why the Big Ten is opposed to it, not this specific reason, but there are 100 complications that arise. We're already talking about that with the NCAA still hasn't ruled on C.J. Saunders. That would put Ohio State at 86. Are you going to give him, that opportunity to play because of the uncertainty? You probably would be if you're the NCAA and you're smart, but this is on a much larger level because all those early enrollees, you can't tell them, no, sorry, there's no room because we're going to stick to 85 scholarships. Well, you already can't do that. Those guys are signing unless you suspend the signing period in December. Now we're down another rabbit hole. These are the complications that are going to pile up one after the other, and why I don't view a spring season as a solution.
No.
Urban Meyer and Joel Klatt even discussed this last week that according to CDC guidelines, for players in this age bracket, it's more dangerous to play a spring and a fall back-to-back than it is to get COVID-19. So, I mean, if we're talking about the safety of the players.
Boom.
Well, let's just say, I mean, any season, any practice is dangerous for these guys. I mean, it's a sport. It's a violent sport, and anything can happen. So if you're telling them, hey, you can go out and risk your life, but we don't want to risk getting COVID.
Yeah.
Like where do you draw the line there?
You guys as players already had to, you don't like thinking about it, but you already know that there's a risk to play.
I love the risk.
Yeah, I think.
What are you talking about, man? Listen. I'm gonna go run my face into somebody else's face mask. 70 plays a game. That sounds fun to me. Could something potentially bad happen? Yeah, but I love the thrill of knocking somebody's junk off and playing with my teammates more than I care about the risk. Right? So guess what? If you don't like that, then don't play. You know what I mean? Like, that's the nature of the beast, right? We all have the same decision to make. Hey, when I go to Walmart, do I want to wear a mask or not? Well, now it's mandated, right? I don't know if hospitalizations are going up or deaths are going up, but if cases are going up and people are asymptomatic, I'm not going to get in the mask debate.
Testing's going up.
But what I do know is this: like, hey, if you want me to wear it, I'll wear it. I don't care. It's not necessarily for me, but it's for other people, right? So I'm like, cool, I'll throw it on there. But if I go out to Walmart and I touch the thing and then I go back in and I don't hand sanitize and then I go over and I get a Roosters and I haven't washed my hands like I probably should, every time I go to the bathroom, every time I touch a shopping cart, right, I don't do all that stuff, and then I stick food in my mouth and now I get COVID from that as opposed to somebody coughing on me. Guess what? Now you got it. I don't know. There's always risk in everything we do. You know what I mean?
That's why it's so important to hydrate and bend your knees.
Dude, listen, I got another solution for COVID-19. Listen, my buddies at the Columbus Barrel Company, they make stuff out of bourbon barrels, but there's always a little bit of extra bourbon that they just can't get out of the bourbon barrel. Okay. So then they dump it out because they make stuff out of it, right? So they dump it out and then they filter it. So it's probably 140 proof now. Okay. Right? And it is the best bourbon.
You got a few guys here at Lettermen Row that would like to try this, Schlegel.
They don't sell it. Do not go to them like, hey, we want to buy that stuff because it's illegal to sell. However,
if you know the right guy.
Papa Schlegel can bring a mason jar.
Come on, Papa Schlegel. Let's go.
Like, hey, man,
pass it around.
Hey, I tell you what, you only need about this much, and then after you consume it, you can just wipe it on your hands and do this. And guess what?
Hand sanitizer.
And then you hydrate, you sleep, and you bend your knees. Poof, David Copperfield, you're good.
Wake up feeling great.
Proper shin angles. That's important.
That's the cure to COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, he's been preaching it since March. I mean,
well, there's another. I mean,
and he's healthy as can be.
Listen, I'm in the weeds on all this stuff. So this right now, just informing the viewers, right? Sure. This is called an Oura Ring. Right now, this being tested. They have some tests somewhere else, but it's being tested in the military. I know the people that are doing the testing. What it's good is, one, it's the #1 sleep tracker out there, which I love it for that. But it can also check your heart rate, or it checks your heart rate variability, but it also checks your body temperature. Right? So again, as you deprive yourself of sleep, right, your body, and you cannot recover fast enough, right? Because sleep is the #1 thing. How do I want to get big? Sleep big. Okay? Boom. Right? But if you're not recovered, you're more susceptible to things because your immune system is shot, right? So again, sleep, hydration, all those things. But it can check how much your core body temperature is increasing, and then they can be proactive and say, listen, this person's not recovered, his or her body temperature is going up. You know what? Guess what? You're going to be held out for 3 to 5 days, almost like a self-quarantine type deal. I'd rather lose you for 3 than lose you for 14. Right? So that's kind of how people are doing wearables and stuff right now. But again, eat, sleep, hydrate, work out, like, bend your knees.
I think that's like 10 companies that owe us a check for this show now.
You would love the bracelets in the NBA bubble. They tell you everything.
I can't stand the Whoop. Nope, they suck. Listen, I'm in the weeds on all this
Whoop
stuff.
won't be sending a check.
Yeah, Whoop. And you want to know why I don't like the Whoop? The Whoop rechargeable battery is like super short, right? Like this thing lasts 7 days. I'm all about users. Like I don't want to be charging my Apple Watch. Hey, Apple, fix this. Get on like a 7-day, 14-day type deal. Because my kids always steal my charger little thing that goes in, not my cord, but the little nugget that goes in the wall, and they're using it for something else. And I go and I set it on my nightstand and get charged up. Guess what? Not plugged in. Right? Why? Because they stole my daggum charging thing. Right? That's real life when you have a 13, 12, and 8, you know? Poof.
Crack that whip over there on those Schlegel kids.
No,
I
just love them. I just love on them. I'm just,
I thought it was going to take till the second segment when we talked about linebackers to get him going, but man, Schlegels is
Came
wound
out.
up.
I had a really good.
So here's one.
And he's all riled up.
You know what? You
Here's
want
one
to see
more.
my sleep last night? I slept my face off. I was at a baseball tournament. Did not sleep my face off. Hotel, bumpy. Anyways, last night, sleep 80% good. My resting heart rate while I'm sleeping 39. None of you guys got that. You guys need to work out more. Anyways, 8 hours and 15 minutes. That's big time sleep
so
right
glad
there.
I know that fact.
Jay-Z, are you
I needed
comparing
to
sleep?
know.
I'm comparing
Okay.
sleep.
All right.
I don't have the ring or anything. I just have a bed that tracks it.
Okay, cool. Which is probably pretty decent. All right, what else are we talking
I was
about?
74 last night.
Man, I tell you
I
what,
thought this might push it up because the way that this schedule is going to
Arnold
work
Palmer's are amazing.
to try and get us back on some semblance of track.
Yes.
When you cut it down to conference only and you build in these off dates, I don't think my understanding is that we'll probably get a schedule for September and part of October, but not a complete one. I don't think they'll just take the Big Ten games that were scheduled as is and they'll play them at that time, and that won't work because then you remove week 0, 1, 2, and 3 for Ohio State where they can play games. So what does that mean? Well, if you need to play your division opponents early to start and have a conference race, November 26th this year, last Saturday in November, that's probably going to get moved. It could be the first game of the season.
I raised that question to you guys. If there was one game we started the season with Michigan,
Well,
and then coronavirus hit, and let's say we lost it.
whoa, first off,
We
First
lost.
off, we don't
You
talk
lost.
like that
you
around
just said
here.
suppose we lost. I don't even.
Stephanie
I
with-
think
But if
you
we
obviously
lost
have never
the
been on this
game
show.
to the team up north, would this season have been worth playing if you played one game and it was an L for Coach?
I don't think it would be worth it if we only played one game. I think you got to go into this and just say, we're going to do this.
Right.
And we're going to set this up, and we're going to go. And I know that can't happen because they're so scared of something bad happening, but I wouldn't want to play one game. No, I would rather them just cancel the whole dang thing if they're going to do that because it's just.
Well, I think that's what Gene Smith was alluding to with all the flexibility is they wanted to have gaps in there so that if there was a team that needed the 2-week in quarantine that they would have that. But if they had one game or two and then the season took a turn and they had to end it, which would be those games that you guys needed to see?
I already brought this up. Everybody needs to come to Roosters, get an Arnold Palmer, and everybody drink out of the same one. They all get it. Boom, quarantine now.
Boom.
That's
Guess
what they're saying
Attack and dominate.
Clemson's doing. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't shut down the
They're
facility.
probably not doing that like
It's the
officially.
They don't have the COVID jug.
Hey, all the kids, all the dudes'
The
parents
Gatorade
got-
bottle, is that the one? Give it to me.
Oh my gosh, that's it.
It says
It's like-
number 19.
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
Are you number 19?
Yeah, it's all red with like a COVID-looking thing on there. It's like, oh, this must be a good one. Oh, that's
The
so-
trainer has a
Unity.
biohazard suit on, handing it out to people.
Smoking in my hand. I don't.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
Michigan, if you play week 1.
If there was one game played and it was a loss.
You know what? Here's the
that'd be
deal.
worth it.
I trust in our guys to be way more prepared for that game than them.
Right.
So guess what? Saddle up.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the
Right.
Big Ten. I still don't see anybody beating us. So if we did have one game, I don't see us losing it. So I feel fine.
Yeah.
And plus, they're here this year.
I
right?
know it sounds like I talk about how much better the Big Ten is, at least since I started covering it, the way that the play has elevated in this league. But still, the only two games that I'm really interested in seeing for Ohio State this year, and that sounds bad, but I mean Penn State and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think anybody else is even remotely close in terms of talent, and Michigan's not either. I mean there's a reason that these blowouts have been happening and why the winning streak is what it is for the Buckeyes. So if I wanted to see only one game and you wanted to name a Big Ten champion, then I would only want to see Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah.
I know that might sound crazy to the rivalry and
Traditionally,
gold pants and all that,
Michigan.
but those are the two best teams.
Yeah, but if you're not going to throw the Michigan game at the end of the year, I don't want it anyways. I mean, that's the end of the year. That's just where that game is
Harbaugh
played.
would love that.
Well, I'm sure he would. Yeah, try and switch things up a little bit. But
He could use the break.
I think that game is end of the year, final game of this, the Big Ten schedule or of the regular season schedule, and I think that's how
I
it's
just
supposed
can't
to be.
see them waiting for that game.
Yeah, I know, but
Michigan and Michigan.
I mean, it
State,
won't
that would
end
be
up on that
really-
date this year. It may end up somewhere in the middle of the season, depending on how things go. But starting off,
I think the-
Orville Worcester did that one time.
I
It
just
did not
can't
go
see
well. It was not a good way to start the season off.
I mean, and that's right. That's the other part too, right? If you put everything into that game, and then it's at the front end, and it doesn't go your way, like just say for Michigan because they're the one that loses every game, like their whole season's lost already. What are you even playing for?
Yeah.
You just quit.
Yeah.
Oh, suddenly they have 100 COVID.
Oh, it happened again. We got crushed by Ohio State.
We're done.
We're done.
Just finally fire Harbaugh and just move on.
Yeah, just cancel the season. Be done with it.
So how many guys? We got 6 teams right on the East, right? So is it really is 7? Who am I missing? Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, Michigan State, us, and who? Indiana. Yeah. They should be in the East.
Well done.
They're the West. Anyways, besides that. All right, so
this is how deep into the offseason we are. We're trying to. Schlegel is trying to remember who's in the.
They had a good season. I really like their coach, man. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job and he got paid, but he's done a really good job. Anyways, so is the plan tentatively now? We're going to play a 9-game in conference schedule.
They're aiming for 10.
The 10 is the ultimate goal.
Okay, so 10 all conference, and then Plan B would be East and West play themselves. I'm just trying
to have an even number, so there's an equal amount of home and away games per se.
They already punted on that when they went to 9. Like they struggle with math in this league. They have for a long time.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I didn't pick the name of the league and then go to 14
teams. Yeah, no doubt, Big Ten. Well, it needs to be 16.
I'm interested because you kind of brought up a point. Well, if Michigan season's lost, how do you keep players motivated if a national championship may not be looming?
Yeah.
Even a conference championship.
It's still your dudes. It's still the work and everything that went into it, right? It's still finishing strong. It's still getting an opportunity to go to the league. It's still having a winning season and trying to leave it better than you found it type mentality. Dudes don't think like fans, right? It's like, why we play. We play because we love playing a game of football. We love hitting people. We love hitting people, but we love doing it with our teammates, right? So that's why we play the game, right? It's not for everything else. It's not for the fanfare and stuff. I don't know. At least that's what it was, how I played. But I was just rocking through their steps, right? So it's like, hey, we're going to play a 10-game schedule. Crap happens. What's the ones that we can eliminate? Right. Eliminate the cross-conference ones, right? Just go to a solid East and West schedule. Why? Because the only thing that matters in the Big Ten championship game is the winner of the East and then the winner of the West. So you do have flexibility. And if I was going to have some things where we're going to cancel, maybe it's they alternate those 10, right? So if I got 6 of my East conference games and I got 4 of the West, maybe stack them like that, right? So where if it's like you know what I'm saying? Dadgum fly, you better get off my deal, man. I need to a saran wrap this thing, man. I don't want them laying eggs in there or nothing. But anyways, you see what I'm saying? Because that way, that way if you had an East and then a crossover, then an East and a crossover, at least then you can say, hey, that crossover game doesn't really necessarily matter because it's not directly impacting the winner of the East, meaning one-on-one competition. It does because a win's a win and a loss is a loss. You know what I'm saying? Right. Could they build in some flexibility even in that schedule as to that's what I'm getting at, right? So is it better just to play East and West and then come together for a true conference champion of those?
Probably, but then and look, we don't know what they're going to announce when they do. It's supposed to be.
When are they coming out with this?
We could hear a schedule sometime this week or perhaps next week. They're working through all that because if what you're talking about, if the best way to ensure that you actually have a season is to stack and get your division games first, well, then you're only going to play 6 games and then a Big Ten championship game after that. What would the value of the West games, crossover games be?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so but then you're taking, but that's not what they're trying to do. Maybe they should be. I don't know.
Well, it needs to be a contingency plan. That's all I'm thinking about. Again, when you don't know and you have uncertainty, what's the next step? Well, then this is how we're going to do it, right? Again, and the other thing that we're dealing with is that you talked about Rutgers, man. They're in New Jersey. They're going to have different rules and regulations. You got Northwestern. They're in Illinois.
Michigan.
You got Michigan.
Different states.
Everybody's
some
different.
Some states could have fans. Some couldn't.
New Jersey says what? You got quarantine 14 days. If you're if you're coming from there, going somewhere, you can't play football that way.
No.
You can't have a game there and then shut that team down for 14 days.
Hey,
so
man,
do they get kicked out? And they're not going to win a game anyways. So do we just leave Rutgers out of it and
Which
say
blows my mind
we're going to
here.
go?
We're even talking about fans. I mean, at dadgum, you go to the dadgum Walmart in Sandusky, Ohio, I went because we were playing a baseball tournament up there. Dude, there was 5,000 people in that dadgum Walmart.
For the last 4 months.
Yeah, just
for the last 4 months, it doesn't matter.
You got the aisles, right? You can only go down this one aisle, but there's 30 people in that one aisle, right? And then you got the one guy that doesn't read the signs just like me. I'm that guy. I'm just sitting here trying to find some Tiger Balm. You know what I mean? Right? And you mean to tell me we can't have people just in the stands wearing masks, drinking some bootleg bourbon. You know what I mean? Hand sanitizer and drink it. You're good. Go Bucks.
All right, we're going to take a
Private
break
label.
so Schlegs can reload on
Steph,
some
you
Arnold
like being
Palmer.
here? This is nice, man.
Love it.
Arnold
this is a
Palmer
good time.
mac and cheese bites.
I want to pound this sandwich.
All right, hang on to it. It's fun, casual joint. It's
good.
Lettermen Live. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome into Roosters, my favorite spot on Olentangy River Road. A fun, casual update with our good friend Nicole Cox. It's July, and we've got some special promotions going out to get people out and enjoying the good food here. What do we got coming?
So we're very, very excited about this. We've been wanting to do this, ever since all of this change has kind of started. We are doing a thank you celebration to everyone. To us, everybody in the community is a hero, truly a hero. From moms and dads to first responders, healthcare workers, everyone to us is a hero. So we want to thank everyone and all of our loyal guests for their beyond generous support during these difficult times. And so we're doing that by offering 20% off for dine-in and carry-out to everyone every Tuesday in July. So you come in, and basically it's a day we just want to celebrate everyone, celebrate all the heroes, show our appreciation to the community, and we're doing that by offering 20% off.
I like that it's both because some people still aren't ready to go out and eat, and that's fine. So the carry-out's been working, got the online ordering going.
Yes.
But you guys have also been doing, because we've been in here now for, 5 or 6 weeks, inside tables spaced out, all the servers wearing masks. We've been staying on the patio, which is always open. Come sit out here if you can.
Yes.
So you guys have all those bases covered to get people any way that they want out here.
We are doing the best we can. We're following the guidelines. We are going above and beyond with sanitation. And we just appreciate everyone just bearing with us through all of this and their support, because it's a change for everyone. So we thought we'd add some excitement and throw some celebration in there. We really want this to be a celebration of everyone.
Yeah.
And so, every Tuesday in July, 20% off to everyone.
And you still got, the golf tournament might be coming up. Roosters Foundation still trying to find ways to stay active and enjoy interesting.
We really
time.
are. We've decided we are still going to have our annual charitable event of the golf outing, and we've gotten the same sponsors we've had every year, and a huge thank you to all of them. So they've been wonderful, and we will see how it goes. It's going to look different.
Hey, we all have to get creative right now, but it's really awesome what's going on here. July, Tuesdays, don't miss it. We're obviously here on Mondays, but if you can't join us, come the next day. It might be better that way anyway. A little bit cheaper and save some money and still get the same great food. Nicole, always great to catch up. Come take advantage of that at Roosters, a fun casual joint all month of July. All right, welcome back to Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. Segment number 2. Hey, the number 1 went really long, so I don't know how long Schlegel wants the linebacker week discussion to go, but I know I can get him fired.
I'm ready.
Get him talking about sleep, and we're here all day.
Who knew that sleep was so fascinating? Jay-Z was
important.
Now competing so that they can compare.
We'll go over our numbers after the show.
Product reviews.
My dad, growing up, he's like, hey, you want to get big? This is how we did it. Eat big, sleep big, train big to get big. That's it, right? Everybody, what do I got to do?
Sounds easy.
You got to eat. If you want to put on weight, you got to eat calories, right? You got to train your face off.
It's all
heavy
numbers
dose
game.
of the iron. And then guess what? For your body to recover, boom, you got to sleep. Rocket science, you're welcome.
I can do 2 of those things really well.
Yeah, eat and sleep.
And it's clearly showing up right now.
And you're hydrating in a different way,
But
right?
now, if it's only one thing I'm missing, then I guess I know what it is. I'll see if I can pull the trigger on that. Linebackers week, Schlegs. This one near
Am I up?
Let's go time, Schlegs. Come on, baby.
near and dear to your heart.
What about it? What are we talking
Hey,
about?
Al Washington, I think, did a fantastic job.
Washington.
Year 1 with the Buckeyes, and they were such a mess in 2018. That had to be painful for you to watch. Billy Davis goes out. Greg Schiano
2017 was bumpy too.
Yeah, there were issues. But most of these same guys were on the roster, and they took a huge step forward last year. Pete Werner, Tough Borland, Malik Harrison now off to the NFL. Baron Browning. You've still got Taraja Mitchell pushing. Kayvon Pope had a couple interceptions last year and coming off the bench. Dallas Gant played a lot on special teams. Justin Hilliard. So that's 7 guys.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do with 7?
Yeah, how do you rotate that?
That's the big question.
What is it on me now?
What about your linebacker room, Schlegs? Because you had Bobby, AJ. Who did they rotate? I can't remember. Did they rotate anybody in? Or did you guys just
like the old ways just to let the 3 guys go?
Marcus Smith.
Well, they were young. You had Marcus and James who were young, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember that they rotated, though. I mean, how hard would it be to have a linebacker room where you got your three starters, but you're also going to get these guys meaningful snaps
Let's
during
talk
games.
about this. Let's talk about this. This is fantastic. Okay, so one, that's why we have practice, so you can get live bullets.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's not the same as playing against
But nothing can substitute real live bullets in a game-time situation. And linebacker, I would say, very similar to quarterback, running back. Probably running back, not quarterback. Running back. It is 100% a flow game. And I would also say like a shutdown corner type deal, man corners. Like it is a feel, it is a flow. Like I really never got into the flow of the game until the second or third series because I was digesting. I mean, again, I was super prepared, but there's always something that they're going to show you in the first 15.
And change things up.
And you want to see if what you saw on film was actually accurate, right? Yep. So it is a flow. It is a feel. I mean, you go look at goalies in hockey, like guy gets hot, right? He's staying in there. It's a feel, right? Where are my defensemen? All these things come into play. So having a rotation is definitely to the detriment of the linebacker, right? Okay. And I think that sometimes where you see, I'm not going to say gimmicky, but like the certain packages can definitely impact certain guys differently. Right? Like I specifically remember we had a game versus Purdue. We got beat. I was pissed off. But, like, I was balling. I think I had, like, 12 tackles going into the fourth quarter. And then I really didn't play a lot in the fourth quarter because we had some kind of special package. And then we got beat. Well, dadgummit should have taken me off the field. You slapped, whatever, right? But you're in the flow. You're in the rhythm. You got to go play. And I think that that's where sometimes figuring that out, but the number one thing is you got to figure that out and work them out that way in practice, right? Because they got to understand, like, now we got to remember, just like I got a 13-year-old, same thing when you got an 18 and 22-year-olds. They want to know the why, and they want to be able to understand what their role is and when they're going into the game. So when you rotate players like that, you 100% have to do it in practice, and you also 100% have to give them the plan as to how we're approaching this game plan, right? Because then they can know. Now, the hard thing, I'm going to give kudos to Al, and it's really Greg Madison when he came in and basically solidified, here's what we're running. And I say him as the D coordinator then, co-D coordinator now, whatever. Everybody's got titles so we can all pay him a lot of money or whatever. Right. But, like, whoever's running the show did a really good job of getting everybody aligned with one common language as to what our defense is. And I think that that's what was missing prior to Greg Madison coming here. Right? And so then you have bring in a guy like Al, obviously from Columbus. Dad played at Ohio State, great recruiter, knows that style of defense, can articulate that to our guys, and that's where you saw the jump. In 2017 and 18, it was 150% a coach's error. It was coaching. Right? 18 and 22-year-olds only do what they're coached to do. If they're mugging the line of scrimmage, not having enough depth and getting reached by a guard, that's on the coach for telling them to mug that way. Yeah. Right? Like, that's simple. But now you see how they're playing. They had a phenomenal year, right? Number one defense in the country. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Okay, so you go from, like, 72nd.
The worst defense in school history.
Right?
In 2018.
Yeah. Goose poop, right?
Yeah.
To number one. With the same personnel.
I think coaching had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, 100%. It had all to do with it, right? Yeah. So that's one, kudos to Greg Madison. Well, kudos to Ryan Day for making the changes that he needed to make when he made them, right? That we all knew that needed to be made. But then bringing in those key people, along with now surrounding them with bringing back Kerry Combs, who just adds another value of coaching high school, coaching college, coaching in the pros, to add to Greg Madison. Now you have a bunch of dudes with a high give-a-shit factor that want to coach our dudes, and our dudes had the same high give-a-shit factor. Woo! Juiced out of your mind. So what do you want to talk about, depth chart? Okay, Pete Werner, great linebacker.
Yeah, Jay-Z and Steph just sitting
you guys go, and I'll follow off of you.
Well, when you talk about depth, I think this position is the one that suffered the most not having a spring game, aside maybe from the freshman quarterbacks not getting some reps. But I think if you're going to rotate...
From a depth perspective.
Right. If you're going to rotate players the way we anticipate linebackers to, I think that missing the spring was detrimental to them. But I do trust those coaches. Al Washington went to the same high school as me.
Well, what?
Watterson.
Shout out.
Give a kudos to them. But I agree with you. I think grabbing them from Michigan, seeing what they did there, bringing it to Ohio State was amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with these young guys. I think you have a group that has a ton of experience. I mean, you look back to those years when we had the worst defense in school history. I feel like people still remember that on these guys that are starting now, and still kind of group them in the
tough Borland.
We want these young guys who are these 5 stars to be here because remember 2 years ago these guys had some tough times, and nobody thinks about it like Schlegs, and you guys just put it coaching and bad positions and getting reached by the guard because they're up. People don't think of it that way. They just remember, man, I saw him get toasted a bunch, and so they think, all right, we want these young guys, but. Having that experience, Schlegs, I mean, you were a 27-year-old freshman at Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, you get that experience. You're in that room. You're the leader.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna see as much rotation.
I don't either.
I think you're gonna let your vets go do their thing. You're gonna have great young linebackers for special teams. To do that kind of thing. If it's a different kind of package and someone's a little bit better for covering or doing something like that, maybe you bring them in and you have that set before the games. Each week. But we got some vets there, and if we get everybody healthy and they stay that way, these young guys, unfortunately, because you got to keep these guys happy nowadays, or else that portal comes and they're gone. I think they're going to let these guys play. And
Bump the portal.
I know, no doubt.
Actually,
a year like this, where culture is so important, having upperclassmen, especially Captain Turf Borland, having them back is going to elevate. Tough. Turf. Oh, I asked him once, I'm like, tough, how tough are you? And then I asked if everyone actually called Master Teague Master.
Yeah.
Just playing some name games. But I think having...
What did Tough say? Because he doesn't have much of a sense of humor from my experience.
It was kind of... right. Same with Master. He had the same reaction. Yeah. But I think culture is so key here because if these guys are basically communicating virtually, and if they can't be in the weight room, you can email along a workout, but how much different and how much elevated is it when you have someone training you right there in front of you? I mean, I think that's huge.
Their competitive advantage is the fact that they know exactly what's going on, so they don't need a lot of reps in a spring ball to get you ready.
And they're all bought in. They came back.
But they know the defense, right? Because they played at a high level last year, and to the detriment of the young cats, right? It's about consistency, and that's what I've been saying all along. Like, hey, we need to replace Peter. We need to replace Tough, right? Like, all right, guess what? If you believe that Al Washington is so good, he would have replaced him, right? So obviously there's something going on behind the scenes, like AKA practice, right? Or AKA grade, the grade of the football game. To where you have a dude that I always tell my kids that, man, competitive excellence, you want to be competing within a room to compete as a team. Compete within a team to compete as a team, 100%. But when it comes to game time, guess what? You're going to throw the dudes that you can trust and the most consistent players out there, right? Who cares if a guy can have a flash here and a flash there, but he grades out at a 78 and you grade out at a 90. Well, guess what? I'm going to play the guy that grades out at a 90 because guess what? My job's on the line, right? So then you take these guys and why they have a competitive advantage going into this, and like you mentioned, Stephanie, the leadership factor is like when they go in day one, they ain't worried about where the front's being set, what the checks need to be made, because they basically are going to be, they've been doing all the Zooms, but they've already done it. They've already seen it. They have all the experience, right? So they're going to walk out there, and it's going to go like this with those cats rolling. Now, over time, as we get into the season, we still got to be preparing those guys, and I'll give you a good story about that. Curtis Grant, 2014 National Championship, right? 5-star guy, Raekwon McMillan came in, boom. He didn't say, hey, I'm not going to teach you. Hey, it's going to be all on me. It's my senior year. No, he worked with Raekwon. They split time all year, but in the 3 biggest games of the year, Curtis had his best games, right? Yep. And that's the type of leadership that we have on these seniors with Barron and Tough and Pete. Like they're Buckeyes, right? It's the team must become greater and I must become less. They know that, but they're still going to go out there and compete their face off.
And Justin Hilliard is now, he's going into his 6th season.
So he's like me. He's 35 years old.
Old man like
him
you.
And Jonathan Cooper.
But I think, it's interesting to look at that perception of those guys. Justin brought up, the old memories of 18 or even 17. Like, they were getting poorly coached by Billy Davis, in my opinion. I said that at the time.
And Greg Schiano, because I think that Greg didn't know what he wanted to do. He was probably a different defensive type guy that was trying to play a defense that the head duck wanted, and then he didn't understand how to articulate that to his position coaches to coach what he wanted. So now I got 3 lines of communication that absolutely suck.
But
that's what happened. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
But those were also the first years where Tough and Pete Werner were really full-time starters. Tough Borland was coming off of an Achilles injury, so physically, sure, he wasn't the same in 18. Last year, he was fine the whole year. Justin Hilliard was coming off the Achilles last year. But people that sticks in your mind. Well, Tough was slow. He missed a bunch of tackles. Well, he was being poorly coached.
We should look that up at how many tackles he actually did miss. It was probably like 5.
It's not very many, according to the coaching staff. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That stands out. If you put 5 on tape, those are the 5 that you're going to see on the highlight reels. But those stick in people's mind. Pete Werner, first-time starter. Did he get beat a couple times in coverage? Sure. But I also remember in the game breaking up a throw to the tight end in the corner of the end zone. That was one of the plays of the season in a tight game at that time. So he was growing. That was the end of his first year as a starter. Last year, I would say that he was the most underappreciated player and maybe the most valuable player on that defense for what he did. He played almost every position.
He was amazing
on the defense. You don't hear that conversation, but where's Brendan White? Well, Pete Werner is keeping him on the sideline. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, do you not see him playing well? Like those, and that's what's also really hard now. Kayvon Pope and Dallas Gant and Taraja Mitchell, they've all been very patient. They were so highly recruited. Jay-Z talked about keeping these guys happy. Well, they've actually really bought into that being a Buckeyes thing, and they must have great brotherhood and a great strength of culture in that unit because they haven't left when they haven't got a chance to play ahead of Tough and Barron and Pete.
And you know what else? They see it from the wide receiver room. They see it from the O-line room. They see it from the DB room. They see it from the defensive line room. Like when everybody is coming here because we all want to have the same thing, and that's to be the best, the greatest, right? And when you go to Ohio State, especially in a COVID-19 situation, and I'm a senior, guess what? They're going to lean onto the guys that play at Ohio State over other smaller schools, right? I don't have to play 4 years or be a 3-year or 2-year starter at Ohio State to go to the next level, right? The proof's in the pudding, right? The proof's in the Pennzoil or whatever. I'll say this.
That's 11 companies now. Well, we're just make sure that we send all those checks to Lettermen Row.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Oh, crap on
You're not even plugging your own business
today.
I
don't need to, man. My business is just attacking and dominating life. I totally had something else to say, but go finish up another question.
I think that their players are really bought in. I mean, you look at Jeff Okudah, Chase Young, J.K. Dobbins. They've all coming back since they've been drafted and met with their coaches. I mean, you talk about following suit, and you look at those top draft picks coming back to the coaches that developed them. I mean, that speaks of volume.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Lower classmen.
Yeah, it helps recruiting, no doubt about it. And, I mean, they see these guys play 1 year at cornerback, and they go top 5.
Right.
So they're saying, I don't need to go beat myself up for 4 years playing linebacker. I'm going to wait this out. I'm going to do what I have to do on the side, do special teams as hard as I can, just make an impact that way, get that on film so NFL teams see me doing that. And then when it's my year to go, I'm going to go out and show out, and then I'm going to go to the league. So, I mean, they've seen it happen so many times in the last 4 or 5 years where guys just step in and they go to the league. So,
every time I go out, I got a show out. Juicy J, send him a check. Boom.
He doesn't have to. He's just a free plug.
Oh, okay. Poof, David Copperfield, Rick Ross.
All right. We hope that they all get that chance to show it this year. Fewer games for sure. We'll see exactly how many in the coming days as changes are coming to college football, but Ohio State's still preparing.
You know what's not changing?
No
the Buckeyes knocking people's faces in. Boom. Let's go.
That's Anthony Schlegel. Fired up, as always, on Monday, ending the fast. Justin Zwick, and for the first time with us, Stephanie Otey. I don't know if she'll come back after this one, but
this is amazing.
It's great,
Come on.
Great to have her down here to talk a little football. Still planning as if there's going to be a lot more for us to cover this year. Stick with us at Lettermen Row for full coverage all year round, no matter what. Thanks for joining us for Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.